Good morning. And hello to everybody out there on YouTube. You know, it's funny, a lot of people watch this all over the world. It still freaks me out when I say things like that. But unfortunately, the people on YouTube can't hear all the music we play. And the music is, half the fun we're having here. So yes, we are the only church in the world on this planet that start our services with the Doobie Brothers. So, yep. Yay, cool. All right. ARE had a video service here yesterday. They're having another one October 11th. If you want to know more, here or talk to, right there, hand raised, turquoise shirt, kind of like mine, sort of like. And from the newspaper, failure is the condiment that gives success its failure, its flavor. Let's try that one again. Failure is the condiment that gives success its flavor. So, I knew I'd get it. Give me a second, I'll get these things figured out. Things you never knew. The focusing muscles in your eyes move around 100,000 times a day. You'll need to walk 50 miles to give your legs the same workout. Wow. Ooh, your belly button is home to thousands of bacteria that form an ecosystem the size of an entire rainforest. Now there's some interesting information.
Is that for an innie or an out?
I didn't want to ask. And see, that's the one thing. I mean, when you leave the Divine Fellowship, you've learned something. Just good stuff. Oh, here's another one. Our noses can remember 50,000 different scents. This is whether they like it or not. This is good information. This is really important stuff. After the 15th century, sailing ships were equipped with rope ladders. They made it easy for seamen to climb into the rigging to trim or to raise the sails. When a gale blew up quickly, a captain might order most of his crew aloft all at once. After having furled all the canvas, the sailors wanted to return to the deck as quickly as possible. The rope ladders were slow, so most men grabbed a rope, climbed down hand over hand. Speed of this descent led to the use of hand over hand to indicate rapid progress. By the 18th century, the phrase had been modified to the more vigorous hand over fist. So now you know how that one came around. We do have a couple patron saints, though, at the Divine Fellowship, John Lennon and George Carlin. So, and John, what is John doing? Oh, John says, when we say war is over if you want it, we mean that if everyone demanded peace instead of another TV set, we'd all have peace. So give up your TVs. And George, equally as thought-provoking, I put $1 in a change machine, nothing happened. Nothing changed. So, okay. Things that make you go, See, if you're around my age, you remember Arsenio Hall when he had his first show and he used to go, So, there we go. That was useful, wasn't it? We all have strength enough to endure the misfortunes of others. It's true. Men despise great projects when they do not feel themselves capable of great success. And cease to ask what the morrow will bring forth, and set down as gain each day that fortune grants. Well, I mean, it's from 65 BC, Horace Horatio Quintus, so doesn't have to make any sense. They were smart back then. Okay. Anything else going? Hey, you know what? We got all kinds of things coming up. We are going to do a fall festival at the end of this month. And do you want to talk about that? Or do you want to talk about our Thanksgiving too?
Yeah, I'll talk about it.
Cool.
All of it.
Okay.
Fall Festival, that's going to be right after church. It'll be the last Sunday of the month. And it's bring your pre-carved pumpkin for a pumpkin carving contest. We're going to have soups, hopefully some pumpkin soup. And anybody that would like to bring anything to go along with the meal is welcome to do so. It's going to be a potluck. And then we've decided that we're going to put it out there again this year for Thanksgiving here at the church. So anybody who doesn't have family maybe or by themselves would like to join us. It was so much fun last year.
Or wants an excuse not to have Thanksgiving with their family.
Exactly. It was so much fun. What else do we got?
I would
We've
never do
got,
that. I would never do that.
October. Oh, we're not into October yet. Well, I'm already into October, so it's October, the last weekend of October. Okay. Also, we still have the Blue Man tickets for Spokane on the 19th of October at 1 o'clock. They were donated. $2 per ticket. I am going to pull the ticket today, so if you would like to get a chance on those tickets. Also, we were just given this little extra bonus. It's a gift card. It's discounts at some different places, and it's all on the back of the little cards that tells you where they're at. All different restaurants. You can buy something, get something free, that kind of thing. And so that's a bonus that's going to go to the winner.
Is that for like Spokane, or is that here? Or is
No,
that...
that's for here. Mary
Oh.
just gave that to me. And,
cool.
Yeah, it's for like the Hanford Falcons. I think it was a fundraiser that they might have been doing.
Mhm.
So it's nice little cards, some freebies, things like that. Anything I'm missing?
Probably.
Probably. But we'll come up with it later. We are always thinking of something fun to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I would never suggest you come to our Thanksgiving and not have Thanksgiving with your family, unless that's what you want to do. In England, the Speaker of the House is not allowed to speak. His main responsibility is to preside over deliberations. Ta-da. Oh, Ricky, age 10. How would you make marriage work? Tell your wife that she looks pretty, even if she looks like a dump truck. Probably good advice. Probably good advice. Okay, more of the Washington Post Mensa Invitational. They redid words and made new meanings and had fun with words. So, flatulence, a noun. Emergency vehicle that picks up someone who has been run over by a steamroller. Balderdash, another noun. A rapidly receding hairline. Oh, God, I get... Yep, no, I can't do that one. Sorry. If you know me, it means if you know me, it means there was children in the audience, so I couldn't do that one. Okay. Which one was I doing? Oh, yeah. This was the last one today. By the way, you know, all the jokes that I tell and everything are dependent on you. So if you don't like them, it's your fault because you didn't give me new ones. Of course, I literally have like 3 or 4 stacks this high from the last 17 years. And I kind of just go back like 6 or 7 years whenever I run out of something. So, the minister was preoccupied with thoughts of how he was going to ask the congregation to come up with more money than they were expecting for repairs to the church building. Therefore, he was annoyed to find that the regular organist was sick and a substitute had been brought in at the last minute. The substitute wanted to know what to play. Here's a copy of the service, he said impatiently, but you'll have to think of something to play after I make the announcement about the finances. During the service, the minister paused and said, "Brothers and sisters, we're in great difficulty. The roof repair cost twice as much as we expected, and we need $4,000. Any of you can pledge $100 or more, please stand up." At that moment, the substitute organist played the Star-Spangled Banner. And that's how the substitute became the regular organist. So, there we go. We're gonna sing a song, and I know it's hard for some of you to believe, but I remember which one it is. We're gonna sing "Angel." Sarah McLaughlin.
And then you got to scoot down in your seat to really not get a neck pain.
Good night, we'll see you soon.
On your back and, yeah, great fun.
I forgot I was going to say something, and the Holistic Health Expo coming up next Saturday, 11th. October 11th. Never mind. Saturday after next. I'm way in the future too. So 2 weeks. Flyers are in the back. Bring everybody. Where is Crystal? I thought I saw her. There she is. It's her fault. She's putting this on. Thank you, Crystal. So the church will have a booth there, and there's all kinds of speakers. Dr. Chris Murphy. Harvey Kane's coming down too. Cool. And who's this? Janice Lynch? Wow, she'll be speaking too. So, how about that? You know what? We have a guest speaker today. Some of you have heard him before, but you know what? We're just damn glad he's back. Christopher. Nectar of the gods. Thank you.
You're welcome, Phil. Namaste.
Namaste.
It's good to be here. It's really good to be here. Thank you, truly from my true being, for all the love, all the prayers, and all the blessings that you sent my way while I was going through, this body was going through its ordeal in the hospital. Very truthfully appreciate it. Thank you very much. Made a big difference. Hence, I decided today I was going to talk about some things that I've talked about before. Some of you might have heard the story I'm going to tell. That's okay. It seemed to be appropriate based on what I have just recently gone through and what some of you might be going through yourselves even right now today. So let me start by saying this is a story about a blind boy. He's a Native American. He's about 8 years old. He wasn't always blind. He became blind at 8 when his parents were in a car accident. He lost his parents and thus ended up living with his grandmother in a remote section of the reservation. His grandmother had a cabin. And the first few years were hard. He had to adjust to being blind. That was quite an adjustment when you're used to being able to see. But he made the adjustment, and in the beginning his grandmother was very gracious. She enjoyed having him there. He was a good boy. But she was old. And as he got older and she got older, she began to get resentful. And she started to feel as if I've reached a point in my life where somebody should be taking care of me. And so when she would go out and gather food, say she got apples, for instance, she would get 6 or 7 apples. When she got back to the house, she would tell the blind boy that she only got 2 or 3. Or if she went fishing and say she caught 5 fish, when she got back to the house, she would tell the blind boy that she only caught 1 or 2. And the blind boy could sense something had changed. But he ignored it. There wasn't much he could do. One day, the grandmother opens the front door to the cabin, and she looks out into the yard, which was nestled right up against the woods, and there were 3 bears. And she yells to the blind boy, she says, "Boy, quick, go get your father's bow." So he does. Beautiful bow made of yew wood. And he strung his father's bow. And he was a strong boy. He's in his 20s now. And he comes to the front door. He brings the bow and he brings arrows. And he says, "What's up, Grandma? What do you need?" She said, "There's 3 bears in the yard. We'll eat good this winter." And the blind boy said, but Grandma, I can't see to shoot." She said, "Don't worry, I'll tell you where to shoot." She said, "Put an arrow to the bow." So the blind boy strings the bow. He puts an arrow to the bow and he brings it to full draw. And the grandmother says, more to the right, more to the right, lower, lower, shoot! And he does. And in a very bitter, bitter voice, she says, you missed, boy. We're going to starve this winter. But there's still 2 bears in the yard. Put another arrow to the bow. So he does. He puts another arrow to the bow and he brings it to full draw. And she says, more to the left, more to the left, up, higher, higher, shoot! And he does. And once again, she says, in a very bitter, bitter voice, you missed, boy. We'll starve this winter. There's still a bear in the yard. Put another arrow to the bow. We still have a chance to have food this winter. So now, the blind boy is very, very nervous. He does not want to disappoint his grandmother. He does not want to miss this last opportunity to kill a bear for her, so they'll have food for the winter. He puts an arrow to the bow and he brings it to full draw. Once again, the grandmother says, more to the left, lower, lower, shoot! And he does. And again, in the most acid, bitter voice that she can come up with, I can't do it, you missed, boy. Of course, this devastates the blind boy. He runs back into his room, throws himself on his bed, and cries and cries and cries and cries. Night finally comes, and his window's open. And sometime during the night, he's still whimpering, he's still crying, he's still broken. He hears a sound. And the sound that he hears is something tapping on his bedpost. He goes, what's that? So he starts feeling around with his hands. And then he touches feathers. Now, I told you this is a Native American story, so there's a little bit of magic in this. When he touches feathers, it's a loon, and she speaks. And she says, I'm here to help you, boy. And the blind boy says, you're a bird, you're a loon, how are you going to help me? And the bird said, well, when you could see, you helped me. You helped put my chicks back in the nest when they had fell out. It's my turn now to come and help you. So the blind boy didn't question it. He was brought up in that tradition. So he said, okay. So then the bird said, climb on my back. We're going to go out to the ink black lake. So the boy does. He climbs on the loon's back and she flies out the window into the night. There's a sliver of a moon, so it's not very light except for starlight. And she flies, and she flies, and she flies, until she's now flying over this ink black lake. And she says to the blind boy, she says, hold on, boy. We're over the lake, and I'm going to dive down into the water. And she does. She tucks in her wings, and down into the water they go, splash. And deep, she goes deep, and the water is cold, so cold. And finally, she comes to the surface of the water, and she lands on the shore. And the blind boy crawls off of her back. And she looks at him. You know how birds do. She cocks her head this way and looks at him with one eye. And she cocks her head the other way and looks at him with the other eye. And then she says this, tell me, boy, what do you see? And the blind boy said, oh, I can see light and dark and shapes. This is wonderful. I haven't been able to see anything in years. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And a bird goes, it's not good enough, boy. Climb back on my back. We're going back into the lake. This time she flies higher into the sky. Once again she says, hold on, we're going down into the lake. And the blind boy does, he holds on for all he's worth. Splash down, she goes into the water really deep. And the water is so cold, so very cold. And finally, she comes to the surface and she lands on the shore. And the blind boy crawls off her back. And once again, she looks at him with one eye. And she turns her head and she looks at him with his other eye. And she says, tell me, boy, what do you see? And the blind boy, he says, oh, I can see you. I can see the lake and the shore and the woods behind me. Thank you. Thank you. I can see again. This is wonderful. And the bird says, it's not good enough, boy. We're going into the lake one more time. Once again, now the sighted blind boy climbs on the back of the bird. She flies higher than she ever has before. Once again, she tucks in her wings and she makes a dive to go down into the water. She doesn't have to say anything to the blind boy this time. He can see and he's holding on for dear life. Splash into the water she goes. Deeper she goes than she has ever gone before. Colder the water is. Colder, so much colder than it was ever before. And after a long, long time under the water, she comes to the surface and lands on the shore. The blind boy gets off her back and she says, after she looks at him, tell me, boy, when you look at the far distant mountains, what do you see? And the blind boy looked to the far distant mountains and he said, I can see every single tree in those mountains and I can count them 10,001. Then the bird says, tell me, boy, what do you see when you look to the south? The blind boy looks to the south and he looks back at the bird and he says this, I can see my grandmother. She is in the front yard and she is skinning 3 bears. Then the bird says this to the blind boy, who is now sighted. And she says this, do what you must do. Do what you must do. Now, I tell you this story because no matter what you go through in life, we go through it as a blind boy or as a blind girl, whatever the case may be. We don't know what is around the bend in our lives. We don't know what kind of things we will have to struggle with, what kinds of things will befall us as we go through this thing that we call life. If we go through it numb, only seeing shades of black and white, we won't learn that much. Many of us go through it sighted. We can see it. but do we really see it? You see, because when the bird helped the blind boy to see, what did she say to him? He thanked her. She restored his sight. And she said this, "It's not good enough, boy. You're not seeing from your true self." That's why she went back into the water, so she could help him see from his true self, not from his ego self, not from the roles that we play. And we all have them. Or if you want, you can call them archetypal patterns. Carolyn Moss does a very nice job of talking about archetypal patterns. One of the things she says is, we all have them. They're roles that our egos play, if you will. They're patterns that our ego steps into. And she says, no one is exempt from them. And every single one of us have 4 that are similar, though we have about 12 that we roll in and out of. No pun there. But we do roll in and out. The 4 that we all have in common, the child, and there's a lot of different child archetypal patterns. There's the good child. Oh, what a wonderful child. There's the child from hell. Oh God, I can't stand this kid. But we all have the child. We all have the prostitute, okay, where we prostitute our time and our energy because we think we can get something or whatever. We all have that. We all have the victim, okay. Oh, woe is me, this is happening to me. Why is it always happening to me? They're always picking on me. Gosh, why me? We all have the victim. And the 4th one that we all have is a saboteur. Okay? And most of us are probably very familiar with the saboteur. You get a dream, you get something that you really want to do, you're passionate about it, you're living it, thinking about it, day in and day out, and all of a sudden you say to yourself, I can't do it. I got to have this, or I need that, or I need this education, or I need this much money. I can't do it. And the saboteur is going, and we don't do it. We don't do it. So we all have those 4. And then there's a whole bunch of other ones that we have that we step in and out of. But if you're looking at things with your true sight, when you look to the far distant mountain and you can count all of the trees, when you can see what it is for what it is, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what comes your way in life. You can deal with it. There's a small little thing I want to read to you out of one of Eckhart Tolle's books. And it's about a Zen monk that really illustrates what I'm talking about. And I didn't want to get it wrong, so I typed it up. It goes like this. It's not very long. It says, a Zen teacher and monk was officiating at a funeral for a famous nobleman. As he stood there waiting for the governor of the province and the other lords and ladies to arrive, he noticed that the palms of his hands were sweaty. The next day, he called his disciples together and confessed he was not yet ready to be a true teacher. He explained to them that he still lacked the sameness of bearing before all human beings, whether they be a beggar or a king. He was still unable to look through social roles, archetypal patterns, if you will, and conceptual identities, and see the sameness in every human being. He then left, and became the pupil of another master. He returned to his former disciples 8 years later, enlightened. So, he realized, because his hands were sweaty, waiting for the governor of the province and some nobles, that he had not yet been able to see the true being in each and every individual. He wasn't able yet to discern that through the different social roles that we play. That's why when I come up here and talk, I generally always start by saying, Namaste, because I recognize the spirit in you as the same spirit in me. It doesn't matter what your title is. It doesn't matter what your job is. It doesn't matter what your station in life is. I see equalness in all of us. I work very hard at that. That's why I say that. I don't say it lightly. I say it with conviction. So I'm going to leave you with these final words. I wrote these words in 2009. And I thought, what a nice way to end this. It's called a magic moment. What is a magic moment? Is it a place in time and space that we can see and maybe touch and feel? Is it a place that only can be reached by one's mind? If we go a step further from one point of view, is a magic moment a place that can be reached by the self, the observer, that part of us that cannot be named? In one truth, a magic moment is simply whatever we determine it to be. Whatever you determine it to be, your magic moment. And you connect with your inner self, your observer. I go on to say, the sun shines light on a winter morning's virgin snow, covering the ground like an old familiar wool blanket. Tiny little specks of sun twinkle in the morning light. A soft breeze caresses your face as a crow calls greetings to the sun. Be still and embrace that which cannot be named. To awake in a moment and know that you are part of something that transcends the world that we see around us every day. The whole and the parts are and will always be one. It can be so easy and at the same time so hard to fathom. Be still and let that which is your guide, your comings and goings. There is magic in our world that has the power to move mountains if it is wished. Magic that can lift the heart of love to extraordinary heights. Magic that is there waiting to be felt, waiting to be touched. Be still and let the magic of your being whisper its name. Every moment is a magic moment waiting to be realized. Be still and enjoy a magic moment. Namaste.